Welcome to the SoundMiner Database Companion tutorial overview. I'm going to kind of go over the basic features and give you a little explanation of kind of how to play with the program and hopefully help you get some great results. So let's start by opening the program. Here we go. A little warning. Please make sure you back up your databases and audio files. All the default modes are completely non-destructive, but some people have requested the ability to be a little destructive and delete files and make permanent changes. So I've implemented them, but I've also left careful warnings whenever you're possibly entering a situation that you might need to worry about. So anyway, here we go. Let's make this full screen. And here's our main screen. This is our main algorithms. You basically check whichever one of these you want to run and hit search. First, you got to load a database. So let me load it will try to find your SoundMiner databases folder, and then here's my little demo test. And then, yeah, so here's our basic duplicate search. This will search, and based on criteria we set in the preferences. So let's just run this really fast. You can see it goes really fast. Well, this was actually only about 600 records. Based on the duplicate search, it just found, these as our options. Anything white is unchecked. It'll become red if you check it. And then anything checked, if you click this button, will be removed from your database. Now at this point, it will only remove from your database. It will not remove your files. In addition to that, to protect your database, default mode, it will actually create a safety copy of your database with whatever, if you want to customize this, you can. And that way, and any changes will be made in this new copy of your database to protect your original SoundMiner database. And then you also have the option here. You can keep your files on disk. You can also move to the trash, or you can permanently delete them. But it's up to you. It's completely up to you. I usually keep on disk. My recommendation would be to keep on disk, and then in your new database, make a mirror of everything from there, and that's the safest method. You can also select. And then, you can toggle what's selected, and that's a toggle. You can make them all checked. You can uncheck them all. You can invert your selection, clear. You can also hold Shift and add your selection. Option is everything. So you can go Shift, Shift, and then Shift, Shift, and add like that. It's kind of like and that's kind of how you interact with these. We can uncheck them all. And you'll see also when you make selection, you have removed selected checked records. And the reason for this is, let's put these in here. So as you can see, there's only one file here that's got a red check. So that's the only one that'll get removed if you click this button. This one will not be removed. So let's go back and talk more in detail about our search options. So we've got our duplicate search. And this helps you search for duplicates. It's based on criteria that you can define in options. So why don't we look at that really fast? Options. Here we go. We'll open with our duplicate match criteria. And here we got. It's based on file name, channels, and duration. So what this means is, in order for files to be considered duplicates, they have to have the same file name, they have to have the same number of channels, and they have the same length. And you can change this however you like. One thing that's actually kind of fun or interesting is you can actually set something like show. Where's my show? There it is. You can add show to this list. And now what it means is, if you have the metadata for show, it will only find duplicates within a show as opposed to in your entire library, because now it's checking show as part of one of these criteria. You can also ignore file types. So therefore, if you have like whoosh.wave and whoosh.flac as the same file name, it'll say, hey, these might be the same as long as they have the same number of channels and duration and the show to match this. Or you can always select a couple of these and remove them. If you're feeling really bold, which I do a lot, I actually just do it based on file name because I have too many records and I don't really care if I lose some. But everybody's got their own preferences. While we're here, we can also look at the audio content search options. Really, we've got two options. We have an exact match and we have relative match, where you can set a threshold on how close do you want these files to be considered a match. So this means they got to be almost like exactly the same, and these mean, hey, pretty close. So you can help find like similar audio. This is good for relative, for example, the Pro Sound Effects and the Weddington library. Pro Sound Effects is kind of a remastered version of that, so it can help you find those files have been altered, so they're not an exact match. Maybe they've been remastered or somehow, but this will help you find where those are. This isn't an exact science. You have to set your threshold. You have to play with this. Now, the problem with the audio content search is it needs to create an audio fingerprint for every file in order to do this search, which can take a while because it has to look at the waveform and create it. So what I've done is now you have the ability to store the audio fingerprints in your database, and you can attempt to fetch your stored fingerprints. What happens is now, as it generates the fingerprints, it stores them in the database. So, usually this, on I have 950,000 records. It takes about 5-6 hours to go. But, if you're at about 2 hours in and you need to cancel, it'll store, and then you can pick up where you left off with these options enabled. The fingerprints can increase the size of your database dramatically. For me, it doubles about the size of my database. So if for some reason you want to get rid of them, there's this handy button which will just clear them all out of the database. And if you want to, you'll have to regenerate them again if you run this. So that's the audio content search, and these are our presets. You'll find these on every one of these pages. This is just kind of your general presets for options. So that's your match criteria. And that's all here under let's close this. Duplicate search and audio content comparison. So we can turn this on to start scanning those if we like. Now let's talk about some of our other algorithms. We've got similar file name. Now similar file name takes that file name aspect of the duplicate search and extrapolates upon that. So basically, as you see in the tooltip, it'll look for 0.1, 0.4, 0.21.m. So what it does is it looks like Pro Tools, when you import the same file multiple times, will start adding these period 1, period 2, period 3, or just kind of random things. So you can end up having multiple copies of the same sound in your session that have these different little dots at the end before the extension. So what this does, it helps you find the root file name, and if it can find the root without these and these, then it'll mark these as the extension. It's a little hard to explain. You'll see more when we look at our results, so I'll click that in. Audio Suite tags, same thing. In Pro Tools, when you run something through Audio Suite, it'll generate a little tag on the file to let you know that it was processed with pitch shift or gain or normalize or whatever it is. So what this does too is it looks at the file name, and if it finds that tag, it actually removes it, and then it looks at what's left to see if that is the same as any other file. And if it is, then it'll say, hey, you have the root file somewhere, and marks it as deletion. And if it doesn't, then it'll say, hey, look, even though I have this tag, I can't find the root anywhere, and it doesn't mark it for deletion. So we'll have this on. We talked about audio content comparison. It searches there. Dual mono check. So this will scan your waveforms, again, each one, and it will look if all the channels have the same audio information. So back in the day, lots of mono files were put on CD, which required 2 channels, so they would just put the same mono channel on both left and right. So there's a lot of sounds and libraries that are just two mono files that's masquerading as stereo. So this will help you find those. And I've implemented a little function, which you'll see later, that'll help you try to strip out the extra channels if you're looking to save space on your hard drive. Now, file name contains tag. This is very similar to Audio Suite tags. It looks for those same tags, but it does not check to see if that file name exists anywhere. If it finds that string of characters, that's your tag, it will just automatically mark that file for removal. So that's kind of the big difference. This one will actually check and make sure it's unique against the main search, whereas this one just says, hey, I found this tag. I don't want this. So I can show you a little later what I use for that. Invalid files, if files are offline, if you've moved things off and they're no longer linking in your database, it will mark them for removal. Be careful if you have a library drive that's offline, that can trigger that. That's the only real warning with this one, but yeah, it helps you find invalid files, and then you can use the metadata replacement to catch them up if you need. Minimum duration, any file shorter than that will be marked for removal, and then database compare allows you to open another database, here we go, and And if it basically checks for, if any files found in this database exist in this database, it'll mark them for removal, is how that works. So I'm going to turn this one off. Let us, because they'll all show up. So let's just run another scan. And you can see it's slower because it has to generate the audio fingerprints. Oh, good. It looks like I have a little spelling error I need to fix. So it takes a few seconds, and as you can see, now it should be searching for, there you go, boom. So we've got all of our files that it found. Here we go. Oh, you know what? That's okay. So you can see it's found, using this waveform search, a bunch more options for us where, let's see what did I put it in? Oh yeah, we're in relative match, so it's definitely going to be finding more. So yeah, I guess your next question is, how does it decide which files to mark as a check and which ones to not mark as a check? And that is up here in our options under preservation order. So this is your file preservation, and whatever's at the top is the most important, and whatever's at the bottom is the least important. So the first, in this case, it searches to make sure that the description is not empty. So if you have two files and one has a description and one doesn't, it will preserve the one that has the description. And then we just go down the list. Now for me, I found, you know, having come from Pro Tools, I have tons of files from sessions. So audio files is often in the path name. And I have a big fork between libraries and shows, so I want to make sure my libraries take precedence over my shows, because if it's in my library, then I don't need it for my show. So these are all little things that I've kind of come up with that help me, you know, kind of prioritize that files from sessions and Pro Tools sessions aren't going to be as important as library. And that's just something that I like for me in the way I have my drive set up, but you should change this however you want. Then we kind of get into this was the original, my original format here, which is whichever one has the longest duration, whichever has the most channels, sample rate, you know, it kind of goes down that list. Now this list is drag and drop, so you can take duration and put it up here if you want, if you decide that that's the most important, or maybe you want bit depth to be the most important. Yeah, and you can add your own, so we can say, let's go to show again, that's a fun one. I'm going to say show does not contain Marvel or whatever, right? So now you can add it, boom, there you go. And now it'll prioritize your shows that do not contain Marvel. But you can also remove any of these you like, click and remove, and then there you go. So that's how preservation, or that's how it decides which one to keep and which one not. And I highly recommend you play with this until you have it working in a way that works for you and your library, because you know how your library is organized. And now if you like, we have presets. These are all just silly colors that I kind of was playing around with. But this one is my actual presets. These are the ones I use. So you can see my first priority is I want to save everything I've ever recorded. So that's my #1 priority. And again, libraries is kind of my whole split. I find that this path stuff is the most important. So yeah, so you can see my shows get priority over other shows. And then yeah, so this is kind of what I've done. Like audio file type is FLAC. Like for me, I mean, it's towards the bottom, but I'd rather have the FLAC version than the WAV version. So yeah, you can see that, and you'll see these settings are across everything. So my match criteria, you can see it just says file name. If I go back to default, it has them all. And now let's look at the tags. Now this is just to help you know which tags it's looking for. This is a list of common things I found in my library. This is stuff that I like to remove. So again, this here actually is kind of helping with .1, .2. I kind of did a double, actually I have two of them, interesting. So I just kind of did a double version of that, just to be extra safety. And now these are the ones that I see. So I have a bunch of stuff that I've gotten from the picture department over the years that have ended up in my session, and they're always just like not that well maintained. So I just say, hey, look, if it has this tag in the file name, I want to get rid of it. So that's why that's there. And then we can also edit the colors if you want to have fun. If you're bored, you can do silly things like this. Yeah, here's a little silly one, or whatever. So we'll go back to default. And you can also just reset to defaults as well if you get like really far gone and you're like, ah, no. Yeah, you can also file load presets from here if you want. Yeah, so you can even see too, let me go back to the main search. We've got just duplicate here, and then if we go file load mine, you'll see it's got kind of what I like to do. And that's basically it. Oh, I guess metadata. Oh, we haven't done a dual mono check. Let me options. I want to make sure that it looks first for the dual mono. So I'm going to have it regenerate from scratch again. If you turn this off, it will not try to store, and it will regenerate from scratch. So now we're going to add dual mono check. Actually, I'm only going to do a dual mono check. I don't want the rest. And search for record. Ba-choom. There you go. So you can see it's found these dual mono files, and now we've got this new option, dual mono files, down here. And of course, in the interest of safety, it's set to keep. But you can also attempt to strip them, and you'll see there's a little warning. So let me show you Finder. Yeah, where is it? I'll have to get out of full screen mode to show you. So now we've got, here's the two dual mono files. Now you can see 5 megabytes, 4.4 megabytes. I have it set to strip. So you'll also notice, actually, let me go back to the main color option here. I want you to see, when you search for dual mono, it will not show up as checked, because we don't necessarily want to remove these files. So there is no check mark here. Also, you can audition with these little things, and you just click on it to start and click on it to stop. So you don't want to remove these from your library, but you do want to get rid of the extra channels, so that's why they are not checked. You do not need to check them for this to work. So now you can just click remove checked results, and you'll see there's a little red X to convert to mono, because that is not undoable. And whenever if any of these are a warning, here, let me actually show you. Safety database, current database, you see you got a little warning, and then we got it moved to trash. We'll give you a solid, and then, because it's semi-dangerous, but permanently delete, we got a blinker again. So I want to take the safeties back onto these. Dual mono is okay, so I'm going to say remove check. And well, this is probably wrong because these are not checked, but it will also strip dual mono, and maybe I need to fix this. Are you sure this is not undoable? Yes. Zoom. And now we have a little message, because we need to now update SoundMiner to show that these things are have been stripped. So let's go first to our Finder, and you can see 2.2, 2.5. The file size is now half as large. And now if we go back here and we click on it, it's kind of freaking out. So we can go to, I believe it's database show dirty. Oh, they didn't show up. Okay, show all. I think it's because they don't have any metadata inside of them. Let's search for Thunder. Here they are. Okay. But you definitely want to rebuild waveforms for selected, and if there is metadata, then it'll want to rebuild it. And now you can see we're in mono. And there's just one channel, and we've saved some space on your drive if that's what you're looking to do. Alrighty, well that's basically it. Let's see here, and here's a little instructions on how to kind of do all that and what to look for. Yeah, so we've got our overviews. Oh, metadata replacement. Okay, so this will help you. Let's say you have some invalid files and you need to change the file path. Now, if you go back to SoundMiner, we have, it's giving me a little warning. You know, what it does is it has these preferences. Bring them all over in here, where we've got field loader, live relink. And this is, well, I don't have any because I've cleaned them out. But this is like when it can't find things, it doesn't actually change the file path of anything in your SoundMiner. So if you want to actually physically change the file path, you can use, where am I going? Here we go. So yes, you can set this to file path, file name. The thing is, in SoundMiner, you can't just change one of the fields. There's actually a bunch of different places that it needs to get changed. So I have it set so it'll do that for you. If you run that, let's just quickly, we'll search for van and change it to arrow. Okay, right. I can say find metadata, and then this has van somewhere in the file name. Yeah, there we go, minivan. And then you can hit the button and it will, are you sure this is not undoable? I don't really want to do this right now, but yeah, that can help you rename or help you do file paths. It's just really something like maybe if you want to do something really quick, or you can actually, honestly, using workflows in SoundMiner is the way better way to do that. I strongly suggest you do it that way. This is really meant just for file paths. I may actually, if you all want, I can hide this a little more, or maybe move it into options or something, because it's really not, you're not really going to use this very much. Alrighty, yes, we went over all the options, and there you go. That's basically it. The big one is just really playing around with your match criteria. Let me load defaults, you know, and then again, preservation order. This is really, really the most important thing you can do, because this is how the program decides what files to keep, what files to get rid of, and the idea being that it'll help you find, you know, like we can run my whole record. It finds about 187,000 duplicates in my library, and I don't have time to check every single one. So this helps me kind of get close, and I've dialed it in the way I like, and I trust that it works, and I've come to trust that it works. And again, you have the safety copy. So I would recommend, you know, you make your safety copy, and then you can play with that. So make your safety copy, use that as your database for a while. If you find you're missing something or whatever, you can go back and check, try again. And again, with the waveform stuff, it saves all that. So the first time, so now if we go back and search for waveforms, watch, it'll go real fast. So boom, there you go, same thing, because it has all the fingerprints stored. Yeah, I think that should do it. Hopefully that gets you off and running. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy. I hope you find lots of good duplicates.